This video will cover the basics of running SEP tests on the Sierra Summit version 3.1. To get into your SEP tests, you'll pick the EP tab or the All Tests tab in your navigator, and then select SEP, and you'll see all the different SEP options. Double click on the test you want. This test is set up for just a one-sided exam, and it's a right median SEP. I'm just running a simulator of 60 cycle data for this demonstration. The first thing you do, of course, is set up your patient and then check your impedance, which is this Z button here. When you check your impedance, you'll also be able to check your montage to make sure everything's connected correctly in the head box. Once everything is set correctly, you'll hit run on the base unit and then slowly increase your stimulus with the yellow knob. And once you get an appropriate muscle twitch or muscle activation, you'll hit delete, and that'll reset this count. So it'll reset this run to 0, and now we're starting over at 0 with the appropriate stimulation intensity. At any point during the test, you can run stop to pause, and then run stop again to continue, or you can delete to reset your average count and reset at your averages. I have F2 set to stim on average. That means it's only stimulating when you're running. If F2 is set to stim on, then it continually stims regardless of whether you're running the test or not. Shutoff is set to 2000. Your rejection levels are here. Your rep rates and intensities and pulse widths are here. If you want to change the gains, changing the blue knob, or change individual gains. Changing the blue knob will change all the gains together. To change an individual gain, here's channel 1 through 4 here, and just pick that channel and change the gain of that one channel. Once you've acquired good waveforms, you can stop. I'm going to stop early. I've only done 50 counts. And that pauses the run. And if I'm happy with it, I can go ahead and hit store. So now I have my odd and even. If I just want to look at those, I can move these out of the way. But I probably want a grand average at this point, so I'm going to hit F4 as my next step. That gives me my grand average. And now I can go ahead and move my live traces out of the way so I can just see my remaining traces. So now I have my odd and even trace and then the grand average trace. To put cursors on, I'm just going to highlight that trace, and I'm going to click auto cursors, and that set up my cursors. And I can adjust those cursors as needed with my mouse, just dragging the cursor. If I want to adjust the gain of one trace, I have to select that trace. So currently it's on trial selection mode, so if I select one, it's going to select all of them, and the gain's going to change all of them. If I right click and take off trial selection mode, I can select just one trace and then change the gain on that one trace. For example. And I'm changing the gain with the blue knob. If I want to turn off a cursor, if there's a cursor that I don't want, I just right click on it and select it down here, selected cursor on off, just click that and that turns that cursor off. To print, I can just go to either the print button, the reports button on my base unit, or I can go to file and choose preset report or just print screen. If I want to only show the grand average trace, I can grab these guys. I'd probably go back to trial selection mode and then grab the odd even traces and just drag them off the screen. So that's the basics of running an SEP. If I want to do another run of this same SEP, I can just bring up the study window, and I can right click on the test I just did and start new run. This keeps my original run and allows me to do a replicate of that run. So now I can repeat the steps here. I can do, once I finish that, I can do the third run. You can do as many runs as you want. You probably want to delete the ones you don't want, or it's probably going to send all the results to your report. If you want to do another replication on the same run, on the same trace, you can. I'm just going to right click and auto auto position traces to bring all my traces back up where I want them. And now if I just hit run, it's going to do another trial on the same screen. So I have my original odd, even, and grand average, and this is my second trial. Something to be aware of, however, if you do this and you do another grand average, it's going to grand average all 4 of these trials, the first odd even and the second odd even, so the grand average is actually going to be a representation of all of the traces here. So if you don't want that, then you'll want to do your second run using the right-click Start New Run here. To delete that, I can just hit delete. I can drag those guys back out of the screen. So those are the basics of running an SEP. You can see here Summit version 3.1. Looks like my screen resolution is a little bit off, so you're not seeing all the tables down here.